They say blood is thicker than water, but in my family, blood was just a weapon they used to keep me in line. For years, I was the shadow, the one who worked, the one who sacrificed, and the one who built everything from scratch. My older sister, Clara, was the star, the golden child who could do no wrong. But there's a limit to how much a person can take before the shadows start fighting back. I spent 3 years building my design firm, working late nights while Clara partied and took credit for my ideas in front of our parents. I stayed silent until the night of her wedding. That was the night I decided that if she wanted the spotlight, I'd make sure it burned her. Before I tell you how I pulled the rug out from under her in front of 300 guests, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had someone close to you, a sibling or a friend, steal your credit or take advantage of your kindness just because they thought you were too nice to fight back? Tell me your story in the comments. I'm reading every single one, and trust me, I know exactly how that betrayal feels. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We're here to redefine what it means to stand up for yourself. Let's go back to when it started. I was 22, freshly graduated, and had this vision for a branding agency. My parents, they didn't care. To them, my work was just a hobby. But to Clara, it was a gold mine. She started helping me, or so she called it. She'd take my portfolio to dinner parties, show it to her high-profile friends, and say, "Look at what we created." Notice the we? I was the one pulling all-nighters, dealing with clients and handling the stress of a startup. She was the one showing up to meetings with a glass of champagne, pretending she understood the strategy behind my work. I remember confronting her once. I said, "Clara, this is my business. Stop telling people it's yours." She just laughed, took a sip of her wine, and said, "Honey, don't be so dramatic. Nobody cares who did the work as long as the results look good. Besides, you're not social enough to handle these clients like I do." That was the gaslighting every single day. My parents would praise her for her successful business while ignoring the fact that I was the one paying my own bills while they were paying for her luxury vacations. I was the ghost in my own life. And the worst part, I let it happen. I thought if I just worked harder, they'd eventually see the truth. I was wrong. You don't get noticed by working harder. You get noticed by taking back what's yours. Things hit a breaking point 3 months before her wedding. I had spent 6 months developing a branding strategy for a massive tech client, a project that was supposed to put my firm on the map. I had the pitch deck, the creative assets, and the entire roadmap stored on a shared drive. I walked into our parents' living room and found Clara showing my pitch deck to a group of her influencer friends, claiming she was launching a new marketing consultancy. My father was beaming with pride, saying, "See, this is why Clara is the visionary in the family." I felt a coldness settle in my chest. Not anger. Not anymore. It was clarity. I realized that my own family wasn't just blind to my hard work, they were complicit in the theft. My father looked at me, noticed me standing in the doorway, and didn't even acknowledge the deck on the screen. He just said, "Clara's busy with her launch. Stop hovering and go make us some coffee." That was the moment the polite version of me died. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I walked to the kitchen, made the coffee, and served it with a smile. It was the most satisfying smile I've ever faked. From that day on, I started playing their game, but I was playing a much different version of it. I allowed Clara to continue managing the firm. I handed over control of the social media accounts and even let her present the final pitch for the tech client. I watched her rehearse in front of the mirror, wearing my clothes, using my talking points, and acting like she was the genius behind the strategy. She was so obsessed with the attention that she stopped checking the back end of the business. She didn't notice that I had quietly transitioned all the legal ownership, the intellectual property rights, and the client contracts into a private holding company that only I had access to. She was selling a house that belonged to someone else, and she didn't even realize the foundation was made of glass. Our parents were already planning the wedding, and Clara was ecstatic, bragging to everyone that her new agency would be funding her honeymoon in the Maldives. She treated me like an assistant, constantly reminding me that I needed to make sure her wedding was perfect because, in her words, you owe me for letting me work for me. I kept my head down. I helped with the wedding favors, I organized the guest list, I even helped her pick out her dress, all while she was walking right into the trap I had set. Every time she boasted about her business success at the dinner table, I just nod and say, "You're right, Clara. You really have a gift for making things look like they belong to you." She was too arrogant to notice the sarcasm. She thought I had finally accepted my place as the invisible sister. Little did she know, the entire plan for the wedding day was already in motion. The invitations were sent, the guests were invited, and the stage was set. She wanted the spotlight. She wanted the validation of the family, and I was going to give it to her in a way she would never, ever forget. The wedding day was perfect on the surface. The venue was a beautiful estate, the flowers were breathtaking, and every influential person in our social circle was there. My parents were glowing, constantly reminding everyone how lucky Clara was to have built such a successful business right before her big day. Clara spent the entire morning showing off her company success to the guests. She even stood on the stage during the pre-wedding cocktails, announcing that she had just signed an exclusive deal with the biggest tech firm in the city, a deal I had actually negotiated. She looked at me from the stage and winked, as if to say, "See, I won." I stood at the back of the room, holding the microphone for the toast. It was time. I walked up to the stage. Clara smiled, thinking I was going to deliver a sweet sisterly speech about how talented she was. My parents sat in the front row, arms crossed, expecting the usual performance of the submissive sister. I looked at the crowd, then at Clara. I didn't say a word about the wedding. Instead, I tapped the microphone. The sound echoed through the estate, silencing the room. "I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate Clara's business success today. It's truly impressive, isn't it? The vision, the strategy, the execution, it's all so professional." Clara beamed. My mother wiped a tear of pride from her eye. "But," I continued, my voice dropping, "there's one detail Clara forgot to mention. See, when you sign a contract for a business, you have to be the legal owner. And about an hour ago, that tech firm received a legal notice. They found out that the person who signed the contract isn't the owner of the intellectual property. In fact, that person is currently facing a lawsuit for fraud." The room went dead silent. Clara's smile vanished. Her face went pale as she stepped toward me, whispering, "What are you doing? Stop this right now." I didn't stop. I pulled out my phone and tapped a button. Instantly, the massive projector screen behind us, which was supposed to play a wedding slideshow, switched to a screen showing the legal documents. It showed my name, my firm, and the history of every single asset Clara had been claiming for months. "This," I said, pointing to the screen, "is the reality of the business being celebrated today. Every idea, every client, every penny of profit belongs to me. Clara, you never built a business. You just built a lie." My father stood up, his face turning red. "How dare you?" he shouted. But the damage was done. The guests were already whispering, and I could see the CEO of the tech client sitting in the third row, looking at his phone, realizing he had been dealing with a fraud. Clara started to cry, not out of regret, but out of rage. She looked at our parents, waiting for them to save her, but they were paralyzed. They couldn't save her from the truth. I walked right up to her, leaned in close, and whispered, "You wanted the spotlight, Clara. Congratulations. Everyone is looking at you now." I walked off the stage, grabbed my coat from the back, and walked out of the estate. I didn't wait for the wedding dinner. I didn't wait for the apology. I didn't need one. As I drove away, I didn't feel lonely. For the first time in my life, I felt free. I had taken back my life, my reputation, and my future. Sometimes, the most polite thing you can do is let people show the world exactly who they are, and then stand back and watch the consequences. That was my revenge. It wasn't loud, and it wasn't a physical fight. It was simply the truth. I'm curious to know, after what you've heard, Do you think I went too far? Or was this the only way to finally get the respect I deserved? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm looking forward to hearing your perspective. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about setting boundaries and reclaiming your life. I'll see you in the next one.